Shortly after I quit my last job, a coworker of mine stumbled across Holy Koolaid and sent me the following email. I'm floored by this. I just feel like I really never knew you. This you. Do you really believe this? Feel this way? As if I've done something crazy or wrong or bad. The fact is that the same coworker told me while I worked there that I was the smartest person that she knew, and then about a week later said that atheists are just so dumb and she can't believe how idiotic and stupid they are. I make the videos that I make in order to address this type of a stigma, in order to show that atheists, we're not crazy, we're not angry, we're normal people like everyone else. But the fact is there remains such a huge misunderstanding about what it means to be a non-believer. In fact, just the fact that I make these videos, my uncle told me that I am an extremist and I'm just as bad as radical religious people. Really? I make cartoons. Radical religious nuts fly planes into buildings and blow themselves up in marketplaces. If you can't see the problem with that equivocation, then something is fundamentally skewed about your sense of moral judgment. I make these videos because I care about humanity, because I give a damn, and because I love to see progress and I want to see it continued and not see it stifled with religious thinking. I see religion ingrained in our political system and in our social systems, and I see some of the harm that's being caused and some of the progress that's being prevented, and I want to have a rational conversation about it. We don't have any evidence of a creator. We don't have any evidence of a God. We've never seen anyone create matter out of no matter, but we have seen in quantum physics, we have seen particles pop in and out of existence for no apparent reason, randomly. All of the science seems to indicate that the universe came from nothing, and I think that unless someone can actually prove that there is an interactive God, then the burden of proof lies on their shoulders. That's the rational approach that we all should be taking. But the fact is, even if you believe in God, there's a massive jump from saying that I believe that a God created the universe to believing in the Bible, which I also addressed in my video, Is God an Alien from Outer Space?, which looks at different alternative approaches and views to God and asks, why is it that you think that your God is the right one? There's literally thousands of gods that you don't believe in. But Christianity, Islam, Mormonism, they take it a step further by saying that their holy book is completely perfect and it doesn't have a single flaw. Well, if that's the case, then if you're really being intellectually honest, all I should have to do is show you one flaw with your book and you should say, oh, so it's not completely literal. And it's not hard to do. In fact, there's a website that's mapped out biblical contradictions, and that's just biblical contradictions. That's not scientific inaccuracies or historical inaccuracies, that's just internal inconsistencies. Sure, you can go through it and you can say, oh, this is taken out of context or that's taken out of context. It's really easy to defend after the fact. But there's some things that you just can't defend, like the genealogies from Jesus. You look at, two different gospels, you put them side by side, and the names aren't even the same. You go Jesus, Joseph, and then they can't even agree on Jesus' granddad. And then the list from Jesus to Abraham is completely different in length. How can you possibly say that that's just taken out of context? I'm sure someone somewhere will have some reason or explanation that they're able to pull out of their butt and squeeze around and try to make it look perfect. But a perfect word of God wouldn't have to do that. And the fact is that as soon as you start saying that the Bible isn't completely literal, then which parts of it are and which parts aren't? There's no kind of label at the top that says these ones are literal and these ones aren't. If there was, okay, that might be easy. But without something like that, which ones do you say aren't literal? As soon as you say that some of it is literal, then you have people who will literally take Exodus or Deuteronomy literally, or people who take the Quran literally, and parts where it says that it's okay to kill gay people. So if we actually start relying on science, which we know works, then you take the story of Genesis and you say, okay, it's not a literal 6 days, it was God used the process of evolution over a period of millions of years. Well, okay, but as soon as you start saying that, then you have to realize that there was no first human because, populations evolve as a whole. There's not one guy who has a baby and then dies and then the next one has a baby and dies. There was never one Adam. There were millions of people all evolving together. And you know what? The change is so gradual. So you're always the same species as your offspring and your parents. But at some point along the continuum, over millions of tiny, tiny, tiny mutational changes, you become a different species from something way, way, way back when. That's why we have ring species that are able to reproduce with an intermediary, but not with each other. And if you have no first human, then you have no original sin. If you have no original sin, there's no need for Jesus. The whole thing goes out the window. Now, I'm not even addressing creationism or intelligent design. You can say, I believe in a God, and that's fine for now. I'm going to address that in future videos. but you're no longer a Christian. You're a theist, but you're not a Christian. You're no longer a Mormon or a Muslim. You can say I believe in God and not take these books literally. And that's what I want to stress. Now, I think that based off of what I've learned, that it makes more sense that the universe came about naturally and that life evolved naturally over time. That's not a crazy theory. But the fact is that only answers one question of where did we come from? Is there a God or not? It has nothing to do with morality. It's a completely separate issue. So, you can have atheists who are Republican or Democrat, communist or capitalist, or any number of different ideologies. You can have atheists who believe that abortion is okay and atheists who believe that it isn't. And I've seen two different atheists have that same debate. We should be able to approach those issues separately, though. The fact is, I don't think that it makes sense to believe in God, and I think that every issue should be approached rationally using science. That's not a crazy thought. And hopefully, one day, the majority of people in the United States will start to realize that. But until then, I'm going to keep making these videos. Not because I'm a crazy, radical, fundamentalist extremist, but because I just want people to start thinking. Thanks for watching. Also, massive shout out to my patrons. I couldn't do it without you guys. You guys rock. Anyone who wants to support me on Patreon, go check out patreon.com/Holy Koolaid, where you can support me on a per episode basis. It really goes a long way. Let's do everything we can to make this world a better, more rational place. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.